Good day. Hello, fellow South Africans. You gotta love these friggin' banks, haven't you? I've just been alerted to the fact that a South African bank has sparked a firestorm of criticism after informing customers that they would still have to pay off their mortgage even if their property is seized by the government. Think about that. Expropriation of land without compensation. And this bank is saying, hey, we have a deal with you, not the government, and you got to pay off your loan, even though you just lost everything. You have to understand the role that the banks played in South Africa. We're talking about the Rothschilds and the Rockefellers and De Beers and things like that. This is bullshit. Bullshit. This is huge bullshit. But I'll continue and I'll read you the article. Okay. In an email circulating on social media, an official from Nedbank, that's one of the top biggest banks in South Africa, wrote, sorry, I've got to get this position, I'm so pissed off, informed the customer that bond payments remain due regardless of any expropriation, with or without compensation. So, if you own a farm in South Africa and you have a mortgage to Nedbank and the government steals your land, their loan to you remains valid. What the fuck are they talking about? Okay, so it goes on. This is the same Nedbank email, okay? Dear customer, thank you for your query you have raised with regard to the impact of land expropriation to your bonded property, i.e. you borrowed money from Nedbank, okay? Nedbank is not privy to what provisions may be made for land purchasers whose land is encumbered, and what the proposed review committee would come up with to address this. However, we believe a balance needs to be achieved between the parliamentary agenda and particularly the law of contract. Okay? This is banking terms. This is Rothschild crap, okay? This is the Illuminati. These are the guys who are going to screw you over. And it's all part of the big plan. Okay, goes on to say, it is important to note the home loan agreement is subject to contractual agreement and bond payments remain due and payable until such time that the bond is paid in full, irrespective of any form of land appropriation, with or without compensation. So, if you have a farm in South Africa and you've entered into an agreement with that bank where they have come out and they've looked at the farm and said, okay, yeah, that farm's worth so much and we'll give you a loan and da-da-da-da. When the rules change because the government expropriates your land, they're now suggesting that you are still liable for that loan. That's bullshit. That's bullshit. Get it? It's bullshit. Okay. They continue to say, this is the same email, we would encourage you to continue with the bond payments until such time a determination is made, the time of which is unknown to us. We trust that your response meets with our expectations. Now, isn't that typical of a bank? They don't give a flying fuck about you. It's all about money in the back pockets of the people who they represent. Now, the email obviously created a huge outrage. And here's some of the comments that people made. Henry Duplessis wrote on his bank's Facebook page, "I'd love to see your money out." I'll say it again. "I'd love to see you get money out of a person whose property has been taken without compensation." I mean, really, doesn't that sum it up? And Jury Absmeyer wrote, "What the hell is this? This is your response? You won't get any payments from me." William Scott asked the government how the government would obtain the title deed to the property if it's held by the bank while the property is being paid off. If the bank hands over the title deed to the government, they are in breach of the contract. Get that? If the bank hands over the title deed to the government, they are in breach of the contract. So how can they try and claim that you need to keep making payments? It's bullshit. This is the banky industry. They are just full of it. Okay? And he goes on to say, "Surely then you have no rights to sue them. Their agreement with you is now null and void. No court in the world can find you guilty of breach of contract if you no longer are in legal possession of the property mentioned in the contract." Hey, that's like law 101, okay? I mean, that's pretty basic shit. If Nedbank isn't as scared as any present property owner yet, they should be. Yeah, the banks in South Africa are in a huge area of collapse because the rand is about to go. I'm sorry, but that's the way it's going to go. In a lengthy copy and paste statement in response to customers posting the email, Nedbank said that the land debate itself has already had a negative impact on overall investor sentiment and therefore economic activity and job creation. Who gives a flying fuck about these fucking banks, okay? They're the guys who are owned by foreign corporations based in Wall Street who have no interest in people. You talk about persecution. Oh my God. The banks are right at the top of the tree. Okay. And it goes on to say, if Nedbank isn't as scared as any present property owner, yet they should be. But so far, it has not yet directly affected Nedbank or the way we access credit for our clients. This is what Nedbank said. We fully support the democratic process and land reform debate and the need for historical redress. But it is vital that this sensitive and important issue is handled properly to ensure no lasting impact on economic growth and food security. Now, think about it. Here is a bank. This is an incredibly hypocritical comment. Here is a bank suggesting that, hey, you got to keep paying us for the land that you no longer own because government's nationalized and taken away from you. And it's now going to go in the hands of a bunch of people who are no longer going to actually provide the sort of the food and the economic foundation of that land. And they are suggesting that it's going to be properly secured. This is crazy shit. This is Nedbank. This is a Nedbank in South Africa. Okay? And it goes on to say, Nedbank said it did not support the government's proposed change to Section 25 of the country's constitution, as this already is provided for expropriation without compensation in cases where a court holds it to be just and equitable, or it is in the national interest. Now, what they're doing, what this bank is doing, is it's just fucking over the people of South Africa, okay? It's absolutely crazy. It goes on to say, the actual wording of any proposed changes will be absolutely vital and will need to be assessed before any economic and credit assessment impacts can be determined. We feel it would be wise to wait for this process rather than preempt this without the detail. See how they're sitting on the fence? This is Nedbank. If you're in South Africa, you got to find out who the hell is the CEO of Nedbank, and find out who the major shareholders of Nedbank are, and I think you would be shocked, because I think you'll find that it's some little dudes based back in Wall Street in America, and we have the same problem in Australia. Anyway, it continues. Bianca Herman said, she did not need your long copy and paste message. I simply needed a yes or no, she wrote. When EWC happens, or the expropriation of land without compensation happens, will people still be liable for the bond? Yes or no, as simple as that. In other words, if the government comes in and takes over a farm, do the people who own the farm still owe the bank the money? And Nedbank is suggesting that they do, even though they no longer have access or they no longer have the property. It's been taken over by the government. This is crazy shit. I mean, this is crazy shit. Okay, so let's continue. A Nedbank spokesman said clients were urged to be patient as this process unfolds. Until there's further clarity on the process, it's business as usual at Nedbank, he said. The ANC, in response to all this, said, hang on, let me just get this right. The ANC said in a statement it was withdrawing the expropriation bill for further consideration upon the conclusion of the Constitutional Review Committee process. Now, from what I'm hearing and what I'll be talking about on Sunday night is that they're actually looking at doubling down and actually really fucking over the whites in South Africa. And that's why they've pulled the old one out, because it talked about compensation. So that the new one will talk about no compensation. That's why Nedbank is now getting in on the act and suggesting that if you got property in South Africa and you owe Nedbank money, even if the government come in and they say, hey, you lost your land, well, guess what? You still owe that debt to Nedbank, and they will be wanting you to pay that debt. How the hell does that work? Okay, so let's continue with this. This is the ANC speaking. As the ANC, we reiterate our commitment to pursue the expropriation of land without compensation as one of the measures to ensure that land reform is implemented in a way that increases agricultural production, improves food security, and ensures the land is returned to those from whom it was taken under colonialism and apartheid, the statement said. Now, you don't have to be a rocket scientist to just look at this one question. How is taking the land from farmers who've got huge bank loans which funds their operation and giving it to thousands of indigenous people who are going to just set up little houses and squatter camps, how is that going to help the food situation? This is bullshit. It's bullshit. And it's now been promoted by the banks in South Africa. Okay, let's continue. The guy who actually is in charge of this area, the Public Works Deputy Minister, Jeremy Cronin, said the move was intended to send a signal to calm both sides of the debate, following Mr. Trump's comments, and we've looked at his tweet earlier. Now, on Sunday, I'll be playing an audio of the chairperson of that same Public Works Committee, which will be concerning to you, okay? Because he's the guy who runs that committee, and they're in charge of this whole thing. Mr. Cronin said a redrafted bill would take into account a clause in the Bill of Rights that puts limits on actions to address past racial discrimination. You see how they're changing the rules all the time? You know, they thought, hang on, we've been a bit slow on this. Someone said this, so we're going to bring this in, crap like that. Okay, so continuing. To that which is reasonable and justifiable in an open and democratic society based on human dignity, equality, and freedom. Okay, so now you have the situation where they bring in the old lefty thing where, you know, people have been disenfranchised, and now this is retribution. Okay, it continues. Now we will need to add, mainly to send a signal to the courts, to Trump, to Fox News, but also to the hotheads on the other side of things, that yes, once Parliament has decided that in certain cases expropriation without compensation will be allowed. He was quoted by the Sunday Times as telling fellow MPs. Okay? Last Thursday, Mr. Trump tweeted that he had asked the U.S. Secretary of State, Mike Pompeo, this is about a week ago now, to closely study the South African land as farm seizures and expropriations and the large-scale killings of farmers, saying the government was now seizing land from white farmers. In response, South Africa's official government Twitter account said the country totally rejects this narrow perception, which only seeks to divide our nation and reminds us of our colonial past. Oh my God. Their colonial past. The only reason there are so many hundreds of millions of Africans in Africa today is because of the white man. That is your colonial past. If the white man had never come to Africa, the population in Africa would probably still be about 5 million. It was the health, education, justice system, all these different things that the whites brought into Africa that made the population grow. I know the only issue I wish that the whites had actually taught the Africans back then, but it's too late now. And it has to do with children. Okay, so in response, South Africa's government says South Africa will speed up the pace of land reform in a careful and inclusive manner that does not divide our nation. You've already done it, guys. You've already done it. You've totally screwed up. But on this Sunday night, that's 8 p.m. Johannesburg time, I will be showing you how Plan B can undermine all this crap being served out by the banks and by the South African government. I'm here for you guys, okay? I'm here for you. I'll see you on Sunday night. Ciao.